Hello and welcome back everyone to the video series dedicated to CBS's Big Brother Season 22 All-Stars. Now, just like my previous videos, I'm going to do a review and recap on the most recent episode of Big Brother and then go into live feed updates, giving a hand signal in case you don't want anything spoiled like the new HOH and possible targets for this week. But let's start off where last episode left off, and that was Davon using the mini veto on Kevin, taking him off the block, and Danny putting Ian up as a replacement nominee against Tyler. And after the veto ceremony, we saw Nicole very sad, crying in the DR, going to the hammock alone and crying, saying that one of her best friends in the house is up on the block against Tyler and is most likely going to be evicted come Thursday night. Now, if you're just watching the show and watching this edit, you're really feeling sorry for Nicole, that one of her best friends is up on the block. She is super sad. And if you're watching the live feeds, you know exactly what's actually going on, where Nicole was crying and really trying to campaign for Ian to stay a total of like one afternoon, because that was instantly shot down, and the rest of the week was just her hoping that at least 2 people vote for Ian to stay, so that way she can claim one of the votes was her to Ian as he left the house. I mean, this was really just like a huge smoke and mirrors type of thing by Big Brother. Ian was dead to rights once Danny actually put him on the block next to Tyler. Tyler was going nowhere, and you could see it in their clothing. I mean, Ian was in like a 3-piece suit with a vest, and Tyler's in his HOH competition gear. So that was all smoke and mirrors. It was never going to happen. I believe some of these tears were fake, because there is a video out there on social media that's circulating with Nicole like choosing the wording of what she wanted to say when she was putting in her vote for Ian, and she was just like in the love room with a facial mask on saying like, is it the worst? This is the worst vote? This is the hardest vote I've ever had to do. So I'm counting it all as fake, and we're just moving on. So let's move on to Ian actually talking to Danny about the votes. And I'm not gonna lie, this side of Ian was a little bit nice to see, because it showed that he actually wants to play the game. Most of the time we've seen Ian in the house, he's been kind of like playing the fence, playing both sides, and it kind of bit him in the butt this time around as he's talking to Danny and kind of laying it on hard that she made a mistake. This was her 3rd time playing, and she made such a mental mistake, and now I could be going home because it wasn't even my mistake. And Danny actually had to leave the HOH room because it was getting too hot and too heated, and Ian was like, I had to tell it like it is. He's just trying to save his own game, but ultimately he was done for. Like, his fate was already settled, and it was sad that even Danny couldn't even just come out and say like, maybe it is gonna be a wrong thing, or maybe it was the bad thing to do and you're probably gonna go home. Instead, she keeps on doubling down that he has the votes to stay, that even in a tie she would keep him, and that he is the ultimate pawn for this week. Drop the act. It's so over the top that you're trying to get his vote once he goes to jury that it's too much. And I liked when he was like, I do blame you, and I'm not gonna vote for you if you're at the final 2 unless it's against somebody that I feel did not play a better game than you. And this leads more into clips before the vote where we see Nicole getting upset with Cody. They're having multiple conversations about what if Enzo was on the block instead of Ian. Memphis is upset that Nicole is talking about maybe wanting to vote for Ian to stay in the house, and Memphis is the biggest jerk in the world, saying like, oh, if you want to hang out with Ian so much, we'll send your butt to jury next. And it's like, bro, you think you're running this game? You think you're like the head honcho of the house? You make one alliance and you sit around the house all the time. What do you like? You think you're just making the rules and everybody's just following them? You're actually the lowest point on this totem pole, next to Christmas, your best friend besides Cody. So if it was ever push come to shove, you're going to be the first one on the block, and you're going to be the first one to get voted out. So why don't you take it down a notch, eat some humble pie, and just relax. We move on to the vote. And by a vote of 5-3, of course, they waited for Nicole to vote last because they want this like tension in the house. It was never going to happen. 5-3, Ian is evicted. He is left the house, and he is the first member of the jury, and he was actually pretty bummed about being evicted. But then once he heard the goodbye messages and Tyler kind of like told him all about the committee alliance and how he wasn't going anywhere this week, it made Ian feel a little bit better because it was actually a strategic move to get him out and he wasn't just a casualty. Kind of and no at the same time. He was just the last one to be put up. It was either him or Enzo, and most likely if Danny put up Enzo, Tyler was going to be the one going home. They wanted to keep the committee intact, so she put up Ian. It was a casualty because it took 4 nominees this week to put Ian on the block. It wasn't very strategical. It was just because of superpowers and vetoes being used that Ian was the next person up on the block. It wasn't really a designated attack. Ian is now in the jury house, and we move on to the HOH competition for this week. And what they have to do is they have to put together this 3D fire hydrant puzzle. The first person to do this and hit their buzzer wins HOH for the week, can nominate 2 people and do their thing. Also, we find out that there is a neighbor twist where a BB legend moves next door to shake things up. Now, we see what CBS considers all-star material, so I have no idea what to expect for this legend material. Something else about this HOH competition is that CBS, I guess, is worried that they wouldn't have enough filler for the next episode, Sunday's episode, so they decided to make this a to-be-continued HOH competition. I mean, you could just tell, like, CBS is, like, frantically trying to put episodes together, and the editing team, I guess, is just, like, racking their brain on what to fit in everywhere, and it is just a mess. But that is it for this episode. I'm about to go into live feed updates, so if you don't want to know who the HOH winner is, please click off of this. But before you do, what do you think about everything that's happening in this house? What do you think about Ian leaving? And do you think they made the right decision by getting Ian out of the game instead of Tyler? Let me know that in the comment section below. But now I'm going into live feed updates. Now, we move into the HOH competition, and the person who won the HOH competition is Memphis. Ugh. The worst case scenario, in my opinion. There's only 2 have-nots for this week. The first one was picked by David, and he picked Cody. Now, this is an interesting thing because David had to pick somebody to be a have-not, and he instantly looked at Tyler, and Tyler told him, "You better not." So then he turned his attention to Cody and decided to give Cody and make him the have-not. And then Devon made Christmas the have-not. Both Cody and Christmas were pissed. But, I mean, you had to see that coming. Of course, Devon is going to pick Christmas. Christmas got her best friend out of this house, and she put Devon in danger of being sent home. And they got into a fight. I mean, this is like a no-brainer. Get over it. Cody is really pushing for Memphis to target Devon this week. Cody doesn't like Devon. He wants Devon out, and he doesn't want David to even see the block. He feels as though David, it would be a waste to try to target David on your HOH watch. Well, Christmas was talking to Memphis, and Memphis was like, out of the 3 of David, Kevin, and Devon, he's the least concerned about Devon whatsoever. So it looks as though the targets this week, or at least the first nominations, are going to be Kevin and David. And it just shows that the committee is all over the place. They are not really focusing or on the same page. They're just doing their own thing and kind of just being a voting block together from here on out. So it looks like Memphis is going to target David and Kevin. I'm sure he's going to want David out of this house, but everyone's probably going to be voting for Kevin because Kevin's won more than David so far. And they know that Kevin and Devon are an absolute pair, especially after her using the veto on Kevin last week. So that's pretty much all that's happening. Memphis told everybody that he was not going to talk game whatsoever last night, and he's going to do it all today. And then he's going to make his nominations. But it looks as though that his mind's already made up. That's why he doesn't want to talk to anybody. And we saw what Memphis did last time as HOH and how he was blowing up his game, rubbing people the wrong way. And now that we're this far into the game and he's really feeling good in the committee, in the house, in his position in the house, I'm sure he's just going to go wild this week, and he's just going to be calling the shots. He's going to be thinking he's Mr. Big Brother himself. So we'll have to wait and see how he's going to blow up his game, or if the committee is actually going to be a solid thing after this week, or if somebody else gets it that they're going to be like, well, we need to get Memphis out or something like that. We'll have to wait and see everything that's going on. But what do you think is happening? Let me know that in the comment section below. Who do you think he's actually going to put up? Do you think he's going to put up Kevin and David? And who do you think the House would vote out? Let me know that in the comment section below. And what do you think about Memphis being the new HOH? Let me know that in the comment section below. But thank you so much for watching. While you're down there, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll be back really soon with more Big Brother content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.